today's lesson. Yesterday we were talking about exchange rate changes, where we talked about appreciation and depreciation of a currency. And we said the currency can only appreciate when the demand of that currency is shifting to the right, causing the exchange rate to appreciate. And when we talk about the depreciation of a currency, we said that we increase the supply, shifting it to the right, causing a depreciation of the currency. So today, guys, we are looking at fixed and floating exchange rate. In truth, I have already covered what a floating exchange rate is, because we say the floating exchange rate is determined by the force of demand and supply. So my lesson today is focused on the fixed exchange rate. So let's start. So a fixed exchange rate is simply when we look at the government itself or the central bank requiring to hold what you call large currency reserves for them to maintain a fixed exchange rate. This is when the exchange has been manipulated and controlled by the government. This is where we talk about fixed exchange rate, when the government itself is supposed to have large currency reserves of foreign currency and currency reserves of domestic currency. So let's look at this first diagram here on the left hand side. So we have here equilibrium here, where we say that the price P1, which is the one that you see here, whereby we are saying that 26 ZiG is equal to $1.20. We are looking at an exchange rate that is above the fixed exchange rate that the government wants, because the government wants the fixed exchange rate to be 26 ZiG as to $1. So in this case, we need to find a way to make the currency depreciate. So what do? We use our foreign currency reserves to increase the supply of the currency. In this case, we want to increase the supply of the currency. So we shift supply to the right like this. You now have a new equilibrium here at Q2 and a new price level here at P2. So this is what happens when we are going to be lowering the exchange rate by increasing the supply. So we are going to be able to have what we call the fixed exchange rate, where 26 ZiG is equal to $1. By increasing the supply of the ZiG, by using our foreign currency reserves, we can now maintain the fixed exchange rate at 26 ZiG equals to $1. That's the fixed exchange rate. So this is usually done when you are trying to control the exchange rate in a country, when you are anticipating that the exchange rate is going to rise above the fixed rate, and also is going to be even lower above the fixed rate. You use a fixed exchange rate system where you use foreign currency reserves. You might be using domestic reserves or foreign currency reserves, or in the main have to try to maintain the fixed exchange rate. Then we move on to the other diagram here, whereby we are seeing that the equilibrium that we have is saying that we have the exchange rate saying that we have 26 ZiG is equal to 80 cents. So this is the equilibrium market that we have here of the ZiG market. So what happens is the exchange rate given here is actually as depreciated as expected to the fixed exchange rate, because the fixed exchange rate here is supposed to be 26 ZiG as to $1. So what do you do as a government, at the central bank? You use the currency reserves to increase the demand for your ZiG so that you can be able to maintain the fixed exchange rates. In this case, we use our foreign currency reserves to increase the demand for the ZiG. So in this case, we shift the demand curve to the right, like this. We now have a new equilibrium at Q2 and a new price at P2. This is what happens. Then we now have a new exchange rate, as you can see on the diagram here. So we now have an exchange rate being kept at the fixed exchange rate, whereby 26 ZiG is equal to $1. So in this case, we had a devalued exchange rate, and we appreciated the exchange rate by using our foreign currency reserves and maintaining the exchange rate, where we are talking about 26 ZiG is equal to $1. In this other scenario, you can see here the ZiG was overvalued, and we then utilized our foreign currency reserves by increasing the supply to maintain the fixed exchange rate that you were given about the government. So this is what the government does when using the central bank, but they're supposed to hold large currency reserves. It's different from having a floating exchange rate. So this is what happens when you're talking about fixed exchange rates. And you should know that when you talk about fixed exchange rate, whereby the government itself will be trying to devalue a currency or revalue a currency. So we only talk about depreciation of a currency and appreciation of a currency when you are doing floating exchange rate, where the market forces of demand and supply are the one who are causing changes in the currency. But when you are doing fixed exchange rate, we talk about devaluing of a currency and revaluing of a currency. So this covers fixed and floating exchange rate covered perfectly. I'll see you in the next lesson when you talk about the advantages and disadvantages of a fixed and a floating exchange rate. I'll see you in the next video.